When I think of my favorite meal, like many of you, I think of steak. I think a steak, a baked potato, and a salad, and that's just what I love. And see, what I love about steak is, you have the raw piece of meat, but then you have some seasonings, and you probably have a hot grill, right? Like you got to cook a steak hot and fast. And separate, those things are good, but when you put them together, they kind of create something incredible. You have the raw piece of meat and you let it sit out for a while in order to get room temperature, right? You want to cook a steak room temperature, and then you have some seasonings that you might throw on there to enhance the flavors, and then you throw it on that hot grill. And all of a sudden, it's an incredible meal. This semester we're going through the book of James, and like James is going to tell us, there's a lot of things that can enhance our faith. Just like that steak, when you put the things together, it becomes something incredible, and that's what James is going to tell us about our faith. And one thing I love about James is he doesn't cookie cut anything. He goes straight to the point. He challenges us. And what we learn is that the faith that James talks about, if we're being honest, is the faith that you and I truly want. So as you get ready to start this book of James, I want to make sure you know who James is talking to, because I think as we go through the weeks, a lot of this will connect and make a little more sense. James is talking to the current Jewish Christians who have been scattered because of persecution. And we'll see right away when he's talking about these trials that it's so clear and obvious to them. For us, we don't know exactly what persecution is like. But we do know that there are things that you and I go through that just seem impossible to get out of. It seems like no matter how hard we try, we can't defeat it. So we're going to dive in and we're going to look at James 1:1-12. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and do not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. Believers in humble circumstances ought to take pride in their high position. But the rich should take pride in their humiliation, since they will pass away like a wildflower. For the sun rises from scorching heat and weathers the plant, its blossom falls, and its beauty is destroyed. In the same way, the rich will fade away, even while they go about their business. Blessed is the one who perseveres under the trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. Trials of many kind is something that you and I understand. We all go through trials. When you're in high school, you think, if I just get to college, but then trials come in. Or maybe after high school, you think, man, if I just get to the workforce, and then trials come in. Or you look for that perfect job, and then there's trials in that. You get married, or you're looking for a marriage, and there's trials. You have kids and finances, no matter what, it seems like trials just never stop. And we think that, if I follow Jesus, the trials will go away, but we learn real fast that a lot of times they increase. Well, why is that? Well, I love in James 3 where he says that trials they're kind of testing our faith. You and I, we're following Jesus, and when things are going great, it's easy. It's easy to put a smile on our face and go right towards him. But when things get tough, it's where we take a step back. It's where we're scared. It's where it's really hard to follow him. But here, James is telling us that in the midst of those trials, in the midst when things are hard, that we should find it pure joy. Well, why is that? That sounds a little crazy, right? It sounds hard to put our, finger on that. That sounds weird coming out. He's saying that because when we stand and when we go forward, it produces perseverance. Some translation, it says steadfastness. And when it produces perseverance, James says that then you and I, that we are fully mature, that we're complete, that we're not lacking in anything. And if we're being honest, isn't that our ultimate goal? Isn't that what we want in life? We follow Jesus, and when we do that, we want to become more like Christ. And James is telling us that if you persevere and fight through these trials, that you will become more like Christ. So find it pure joy. And I think it's interesting that James, he tells us out of all the things that we can ask God for, he says, hey, ask him for wisdom. And he says that the God who gives generously will give you that wisdom. So for you, I want to say this, that when you are in trials, when you're in the midst of it, and it seems so hard to get out of it, to ask God for wisdom. And I love how he wraps up in verse 12. He says that, when we stand the test, that we receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. What more could we ask for? That the God of the universe loves you and he loves me so much that when we persevere, he gives us the crown of life. There are three things I want you to take home and in your groups talk about. The first one is this, that trials teach us that we will grow in the likeness of God. That as we are going through trials, that you and I, in the midst of it, even though it's hard, that we grow in the likeness of the God, that you and I become more like God. The second one is, hey, trust God's wisdom. That trials lead us to trust God's wisdom. That when trials are hard, and trust it, it's going to be hard, to trust and ask for God's wisdom. And the third thing is this, that trials teach us to live for the reward of God. That he tells us that our reward is the crown of life. And so when you're going through trials, remember that we are doing this, and we are living for a God that wants to give us the crown of life. In the next couple of minutes, you're going to throw around some just questions in your group. I encourage you to walk through them. Answer the question, and don't be shy. Because I promise you, there are people in the room that are going through trials, or have gone through trials, or will go through trials. And it's groups like this that help us grow and continue to grow in the likeness of God.